All right, welcome, everyone, to this very special holiday episode of SHO. It's the most wonderful time of the year. So, as usual, we are here interviewing one of the most wonderful game devs of the greater Boston area and hearing about the chestnuts that they've got roasting on an open fire. I am one half of this dynamic duo, here to ensure that your Yuletide is gay, Kate Olguin. With me is my holly jolly co-host,
me, Ziba. Hey, I'm roughly the other half.
With our powers combined, with our bow ties combined, anything is possible.
Did you get that bow tie and frame, producer Chris? How we doing? There we go. Thank you. You're professional. You got this.
All the M&Ms in the bowl are brown, in case you were wondering. He's got it on lock. That was a joke about there. This is really great. This is really a really great banter intro. A producer's good if you give them the instructions to make all of the bowls of the M&M one color. This is a trick that bands use. Really, really good banter.
All I am now is hungry and angry that Chris didn't send me M&Ms. So, but what I do have here is my novelty holiday ornament drinking glass in one hand, and my novelty holiday self-portrait of a Luigi ornament in the other hand. Local artist Luigi.
Can you hold that slightly more to the... There it is. Yeah.
Oh, and how
the
beautiful
the only decoration on my tree is Luigi. That's a little
the only
weird.
Decoration you need.
That feels, unfortunately, like the only time we have for high-quality banter, because this is an abbreviated show, and we have such an amazing guest that we saved for the holidays. So... Kate, shall I?
Yeah, we got to go fast and furious.
Our patented introduction here. Well, we're going fast so that we don't want to rush our guests. We want to
we want to go fast and furious, but we want to make sure our guest has plenty of time.
Family. All right. Tonight's guest is simply one of the best game designers I've ever met. He has spent 11 years as an independent developer designing, programming, and marketing a sequence of lovingly crafted games across many genres, each full of careful intent that has delighted hundreds of thousands of players. Most recently, his town simulation game, Factory Town, has exited what PC Gamer called a triumphant few years in Steam Early Access. He is a longtime Boston Indies community member and a dear, dear friend of mine. Please welcome Erik Asmussen.
Hello. I didn't even know that PC Gamer said that.
That's what I love about you, Erik. You were too busy actually doing like the quality important things that you want to get done to worry about that noise.
Well, no, I worry about it. I somehow missed it, I guess.
All right, sorry. I know you worry. I just know that you're doing. I know why, because you're doing the good stuff.
Hey, it's all good. Well, thanks for that intro, Ziba.
Hey, anytime. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've got it's actually just raspberry lime flavored.
Is it water with food coloring in it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It's blood.
But I got Christmas lights, so, I'm good. That's like the extent of my holiday decoration, is throwing up some Christmas lights.
It's beautiful. That's my bedroom alarm clock back there doing green. That's all I had.
I've got me.
Yeah,
this is a holiday celebration. This is a celebratory episode of SHO. Let's start by celebrating the 1.0 release of Factory Town. Really incredible. You've made a game with thousands of positive reviews on Steam, and individuals have been joyfully investing hundreds of hours into your creation. So let's start off with the basics. What is Factory Town?
Sure. It's a game where you make bread with conveyor belts. So it's like all the I basically started the game. I wanted a way to get the player to make trains and use conveyor belts, but I didn't really have it's like, I know they want to use conveyor belts, but I don't know why. Like, what is the reason? And I felt there was a good niche for something nice and chill and, happy and blocky and colorful with lots of logistics like conveyor belts and trains and gravity powered chutes and water and trying to supply everything and happiness and getting all that stuff working like clockwork. And that's the kind of game I like to play. Like when I play Minecraft, I turn off all the monsters. When I play Factorio, I turn off the bugs. I just want to relax and chill and get in the zone. And that's kind of what the game is. You just, you can just like build these supply chains and solve bottlenecks and all that good stuff. So.
And you have been deep into this, piling onto it for over 2 years. I was going through the list, the Steam history, all the updates, and it's both beautiful and sort of a madman's diary of dedication, and pictures and diagrams, and it's a lesson, a master class in live early access supporting your game. Over 100 updates. So I'm assuming there are some real joys to this that have kept you going. Like, what are the joys you get working on Factory Town?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like it is nice, like to have a community of players out there. So I have a Discord for the game. And there's a lot of people there that I can, if I'm stuck on an idea, I can go out there and, kind of just basically use the old rubber duck trick where you talk to them as if they're like a rubber duck in the bath. They're more than that, right? But that idea of like, you just need to talk the stuff out. And so when you put updates out and you see that they're liking it, but I think it's always this like, there's this itch I want the game to scratch, and it's never quite there. So it's like, I think that's the motivation. Is this? It's almost like not like pain, but it's
you
like
make it sound like you're being driven mad by this.
kind of, yeah. Like after it's been like 3 or 4 years, and like I started out like with this kind of general idea, and I knew like what I wanted it to feel like, but I didn't really know how to get there. So kind of like working through that process is kind of like, like when I'm trying to fall asleep, it's on my brain. So it's like I'm trying to get the ideas out of my brain, right? So it's kind of like that's the motivation. It's more pleasant than that, but
and as you mentioned, it's been 3 or 4 years, and you've been in early access for a while, and you found quite a bit of success there. What does exiting early access mean for you and your game?
It was the actual like 1.0 was kind of I just had to draw a line on the sand because I have a 100-page Google Doc, which is how I manage my project, of stuff I wanted to do, and it just gets bigger. Like it never shrinks. And so I had to find a point where it's like, this was, the game is, there's no giant boxes that say under construction. You can play it a bunch of times. There's no, crashes or obvious bugs. It felt to me like it could be a complete game as a 1.0, even though it's not done. It's just like, okay, this is, I'm happy calling this, a 1.0 for whatever that's worth, whereas like, there's like a campaign mode, so you can play through eight kind of levels, and they'll have their own goals. And so I felt like there was enough stuff there, and enough, I'd checked off enough of the big boxes, but there's still so much I still want to do about it. And like, that's kind of the one of the painful things. Yeah. Is like, I don't think I'll ever feel like it's totally done, right? Like it's kind of like Dwarf Fortress, that you could just keep adding stuff to it forever. So we'll see what happens with that. If I'm still working on it in 4 years or 10 years, I don't know.
Well, you have managed to at least set aside some of your other games, because Factory Town is not your first rodeo. You've got Roller Robot Derby Disco Dodgeball, which is another game on Steam and PlayStation 4 that has thousands of positive reviews. It's very different from Factory Town, and so are a lot of the rest of your games. So how do you build audiences for those games, right? Like, how do you start from scratch with each one? Like, I'm going from a first-person dodgeball throwing game. Everybody follow me over to my chill strategy simulation game.
Yeah, I guess from a business perspective, that probably wasn't the best move to like, okay, I built up this audience and, invested in the goodwill and all that. Now I'm going to completely scrap it and start totally from scratch. Yeah, I guess there wasn't much carryover. I get a couple messages now and then where people are like, oh, like you built this other game. Like, that's crazy. Like, which is just weird to me that there's a universe where people have played like both games independently, because it's still such a small sliver of, the universe. But yeah, so I guess the way I go about it is, I don't know, I start with a game that I want to make. Like, I'm not just approaching it from a kind of a cold business perspective. But I look for something that's not too saturated, kind of like a middle niche type stuff.
So you did some market analysis before you just followed your heart and whatever you wanted to make?
kind of, I think also like I made a couple of prototypes, and I wanted to see like what I played a couple in front of a group of local game developers, and one of the ones I was working on made people. It was like a laser tag in this like 3D space arena where you could like run up walls, and it made people nauseous. And so I felt like that was probably a good sign to maybe try something else. So I work on something until I can kind of figure out like, does this have legs? But I give it like a couple months maybe. I had the flexibility to do that. And Factory Town started out as like this. It was this 2D grid, and there's a bunch of pipes, and these little dots are moving around to the pipes, and you have to bring them from one thing to another and drop them off. And I was like obsessed with this idea of managing the logistics of these pipes. And but again, I didn't know why. So I was like, okay, why are you moving the stuff around? Okay, maybe they're little magic crystals, which means you're trying to make magic books. And why are you making magic books? And that kind of started the idea of running this town and supplying it with all kinds of goods. So so I built a prototype. I got it I did like an alpha on itch.io because they have some really good tools for early release stuff. You could do limited sales. So you could say like there's only 100 pieces available. Yeah. And that created like this cool demand for the game. And there was a big wait list, and people were like, emailing me to get keys and stuff. And also like, I could start getting it out onto YouTube. People could start playing it, and that would bring in new people. So it was a way to kind of announce the game was there, but then also make sure that those people didn't just get lost in the ether. They had a place to go. Mm-hmm. They had a game to buy, or or like a Steam coming soon page. Like I got that up pretty soon, so they could then wishlist it. So it was a good way to kind of like build an audience first, so that by the time I did launch into early access, there was quite a number of wish lists already there, and and the Discord was built up. So it wasn't just launching and hoping, it would poof out of nowhere. So
yeah, no, it sounds like you did a lot of experimentation with like, different avenues of marketing and building an audience. And, there's so many levers and buttons that you can push to try and, get that audience that you so managed to tap into. What, in your opinion, would you say is what media is worth your time?
Yeah, I would say YouTube is still really big for me. One of the things, just in my game dev career, I remember when I started out getting kind of anxious about getting press coverage, and almost a little salty that I wasn't cool enough to be talked about. And then you
start the show with a PC Gamer review you didn't even know was there.
I just remember being upset about like a lot not getting press coverage, but then like it never really made a big difference. The only thing I've really found to work is YouTube, and specifically finding like medium-sized channels. So that's between like 10,000 and 1 million subscribers. Because once you start getting into the like 10 million subscribers, like they're just watching their celebrity friends like play the game. They don't really care about like the game that's being played. But for Factory Town, there was a bunch of channels that were like very focused on like town builder strategy games. I could go to YouTube and look for similar games and find the channels that were playing those games, and then message them, and I'd message them with like a very quick pitch, a trailer, a Steam key. And that was a good way to get people in. And I even had some of those channels go to me and say, oh, you should send this to these other channels. Nice. So I basically tapped into this network of kind of like-minded channels, and that drove a ton of people into the game. So YouTube, and then getting like Steam wish lists, I think is the other big thing. So when you launch an early access, everyone that had it on the wish list gets a notification. And then that can get you that kind of day one sales to get you that momentum. Then you start showing up on banners. So, I rely a lot on Steam internal traffic.
Right. Do you use a lot of like Steam's like big messaging things and events, or they have so many weird little like there's like 15 categories of news message now in Steam Workshop.
There's a lot of different events. I do try to put out, a patch notes with like a little, you don't want to spend like half your time doing this stuff, because like when you put out this many patches, it can eat up like a lot of your time. So I don't know if those really helped a ton. Like I think it people want to have the patch notes there, but I think the main thing is just doing discounts at a regular basis, and having the wish list there when you do your launches. The Discord has been really great for me too. That's another place you can kind of funnel people, and then if there's like a problem, they can talk to you directly. They can get answers. They can chat with other people in the community, and it kind of like locks them. Not traps them, right? But like it's a better experience for them, right? Like they can go and learn more about the game, and then they're going to play it more and share it around more. So I found Discord to be really great for building up the community around the game.
That's nice, and I feel pulling away from capitalism, which I feel I've driven things too. That fits with the holidays, but let's talk philosophy. And your design philosophy and your taste. So, New World Colony, fantastic game, turn-based strategy you made. Shape Shatter, another fantastic game, casual puzzle. Pwn, fantastic game, Mass Digi Challenge winner, 2013. Action strategy. Disco Dodgeball, action, first-person shooter, thrower. Factory Town, strategy simulation. What are the design threads that run through your games?
I think I'm always trying to tap into this this kind of giddy feeling that it's such a hard thing to describe, but like, when you're a kid and you're reading through the instruction manual of like your new Super Nintendo game, like that's like the feeling just this excitement of like of figuring something out. Like each of the games tries to, like with Disco Dodgeball, it was that moment of pulling off this crazy like midair 360 projectile shot across the arena. Like that sends these like endorphin rush through your body. And I think like in a game like Factory Town, when you find the bottleneck where like, oh, why aren't my potions getting made? It's because I'm not getting enough herbs to the medicine hut. It's like when you find that bottleneck and then fix it, and you watch the potions then like flow down the pipe, like there's this very like neurochemical reaction to it. And I think all the games are trying to. And then so Shape Shatter was a game about pressing buttons and just getting levels. Like there was nothing to it, just like fireworks and
explosions. So crunchy and juicy.
Points. Yeah, it was. You would tap a button and like a bunch of things would fire, and you'd hear like the shattering ice sound, which I love. So it's really kind of about tapping into the brain and like tricking it into having that kind of giddy feeling in all these different ways. Some of them are more like immediate responsive, and some are more top down. But that's kind of the reason.
It seems like a lot of it is that finding moments where you're the greatest, you've accomplished something, but not necessarily I have done that at someone else's expense. Yeah. I think like maybe that's a nice like niche to kind of go in. Like with Disco Dodgeball, it's robots, it's dodgeball. There's no blood or guns or anything, and like I like playing those games, but I think the kind of games I wanted to build and it's just like it's a good niche. It's like a colorful. It's not just brown everything, and it gave me kind of a good place to open into. So I think I like making games that don't have too much violence or Factory Town. There's no survival, which makes it kind of hard to build because there's no item sink. Like you don't have to worry about your workers kind of falling over or anything. Which it makes it a little harder to build a game that way, but I thought it was nice to just not have to worry about like just play and relax.
Yeah, that's nice. On the topic of finding a good niche, Boston. We're at the Boston Game Dev Holiday Party. We're on the Boston Indies Talk Show and Happy Hour, and you have been a part of Boston for a while. You've been a Boston indie for 11 years. That's about twice as long as I've been making games at all. It's been a while. Do you remember how your first meetups felt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Ziba was probably the one of the first people I met in the scene. I just showed up. I had just like an iPad with my game on it. I was just trying to push it off on people, and I just sat next to Ziba and was just started talking to him and Luigi too, and yeah, it was just it felt really weird at the start because you're just this person. You feel like you don't necessarily belong, or all these other people know what they're doing and they've been doing it for longer, and yeah, you just show up and start talking to people, and it's fun to like bounce ideas off them and see what they're working on, and yeah, just like this kind of gradual process, and then before you know it, it's been 10 years, and now I'm...
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was you who instigated. You had some insight into identifying that there were a certain number of people who kept showing up at these meetups as if they had nothing better to do. So why don't we meet midday on a Thursday for drinks? Was that right?
Yeah, because like if you're doing game dev full time, like you sometimes have different problems to solve than someone that's just checking in on their spare time, or it's just like, and plus it's the middle of the day, you don't have anything else going on. It's a good time to meet up, and so yeah, I think we started kind of a little meetup group there, and that worked out pretty well, and yeah, that was super fun because it's fun to talk to people that have the same problems as you.
And this is I'm getting into some gossipy Boston indie dev history just to I don't know, to paint some funny pictures. So we got Michael in the Twitch chat was saying I never got invited for drinks with the group. Funny thing, I didn't either. So it's just really wild, and I'm not upset about this. But what roughly happened is that you started this thing and identified a good number of people who were like, yeah, we have time, let's associate together. Michael Carrier then was like, you know what, we should get an office together. I don't know how the mailing list got mixed up or what happened. There was no ill will here. I got added to that group. You got dropped off. You started a group that identified who the indies were in town who had nothing better to do than form an office. And then we got together without you and formed an office. And then like a month later called you up and you came into the office. I mean, it wasn't like a big deal.
Oh, and on Wednesdays we wear pink. Like
it's based with the soul. Trevor saying where it was, right? And so like my point there being like, this isn't about a cool kid crowd or whatnot. It's a loose affiliation. It's a rolling pile of snow, gathering and ungathering like these affiliations of sort of what makes sense in town. And so if you're not in the middle of something like that right now, don't think it's because you weren't chosen. It just hasn't hit you, or you haven't started your own Thursdays. And that's one of the things I'm sort of waiting for now. The Indie Collective had a good run. We still sort of exist as an entity, but we don't have an office. There's no, and all of you guys went off and had kids and moved out to the suburbs. So
that does change things quite a bit.
That's one of my Christmas wishes, is that the great times we had inspire some of the younger crowd watching now to be like, hey, I have time on a Thursday, and then they'll form up and start an office again. Because I did not have kids and moved to the suburbs, so I'm still ready to join another office. That's what I'm saying. This is about me here.
Amazing. What a journey. I love hearing this deep lore. It's always so much fun.
And I'm so like clueless with the stuff. It's like all the stuff's happening around here, and like I just had no idea. I was just like, hey, I want to
focus on making really good games, and not whether PC Gamer said anything or some people went drinking without you.
Well, sure, we'll leave it there.
We are just about out of time. I do want to Boston Bit Show and the holiday party is all about connecting people. How can people follow your continuing adventures, Erik?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter. It's at 82apps, which is back when I thought I was going to be a mobile game developer. So now my Twitter handle is related to mobile apps, even though I haven't touched it.
Have you made 82 yet?
What's that?
Have you made 82 apps yet?
I'm at maybe 10. I don't know if we're counting on the stuff I scrapped or whatever. And like if you look up like the Factory Town official Discord, I'm Erik. I'll be the one in the top right. I'm usually on, so you can join there and give me a message or whatever, and happy to chat about anything. So
amazing. Thank you so much for coming. This has been an absolutely lovely bit show.
Same. Thanks for having me.